Hello, I'm Dave Rowland, Communications Director for the San Diego City Council. I'd like to welcome you back to Council Conversations, a series of in-depth chats with members of your City Council. So far, I've sat down with Council President Georgette Gomez and Council members Jennifer Campbell, Monica Montgomery-Stepp, Mark Kersey, Barbara Bree, and Chris Cate. You can find these conversations on YouTube simply by searching for San Diego City Council Communications. This week marks the end of the line for the current City Council. On December 10th, 5 members will be departing and 5 new members will be inaugurated, along with Mayor-elect Todd Gloria, joining 4 returning members on a new City Council. One of the 5 departing members is Chris Ward, who was elected on November 3rd to a seat in the State Assembly, replacing Mr. Gloria. For the past 4 years, Councilmember Ward has represented District 3, which includes the communities of Downtown, Little Italy, Old Town, my community of Mission Hills, Bankers Hill, Hillcrest, University Heights, Normal Heights, North Park, South Park, and Golden Hill. He is, for a couple more days anyway, the chair of the Council's Land Use and Housing Committee, and he joins me today. Councilmember Ward, thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Dave, great to be with you.
So talk to me about 2020. How has your family gotten through all of this?
It's been tough. We didn't, obviously, none of us would have seen a year like this coming, both personally and professionally, to have to manage so many responsibilities on top of the challenges that we've already faced that I entered into office to solve. But I'm made of some grit that really it compels me to have to dig in and make the most of what I have to work with and try to do a lot better on both fronts. I think many know I have 2 young kids at home, a daughter who's in 1st grade. We've been doing distance learning since March. I have a son who is just 2 and change, so he's quite the firebrand as a 2-year-old boy. We were without daycare since March until about August, when the facility was able to reopen safely. And we were just thankful to have grandparents and others in family that were a part of our bubble to be able to help us manage their security and their love and their attention and their growth, while I also was trying to make sure that we were helping our communities with all the things that 2020 has brought upon us. I think, we were trying to do a lot around homelessness and using some of our COVID dollars creatively in a way that is actually being able to not just keep people safe from a public health pandemic, but also making sure that we are pointing more people towards housing. And you all know from the news what we were able to do through the convention center and through motel acquisitions, and even some of our existing strategies to do them better in a much better coordinated way, and have over 1,000 people now that as of March, were either stuck on the streets or without that direction, now either housed or on their way towards housing. So it's been tough, and it's not over, of course. We all wish that the pandemic was over tomorrow, and we are always trying to make sure our community has the right information to do the responsible things so that we stop community spread. That allows us to make sure that we can have more social activity, more business activity, more hopefully reopen our schools at a time sooner rather than later, and get back to life as we know it until such a time that the virus is fully out of our population. So it's been also an honor to be with a very strong team here in the District 3 office. I couldn't have done it without 9 great staff members that are helping me do the day-to-day business, respond to constituent calls, work with city staff, make sure that we were advancing some of the policy priorities that we still wanted to get done and did get done. So it's been a hard year, but one that we have tried to make the most of what we had to work with, and still been doing our best to do the job.
Yeah, as you talked, it made me think of, elected officials are real people, and you all come into public service at different stages of your lives, and you being, a parent of a young family, it must give you perspective on how similar families are challenged.
Well, sure. And, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm available to my kids and my partner, and making sure that we have our family is safe and secure and is happy, that they're able to enjoy all the the things that we're trying to do here in the city and in our communities as well. It's been great. One of the best parts of the job has been able to find places or times when I can kind of connect the two. When we have, some new facility opening in a park and I can bring the kids along, or, my partner has been able to come with me to special events and really get to see some of the progress that we're making together and the impact that we have out in the communities. So it's really been a team effort, and I've been grateful to have them supportive of the work that I'm doing and the role that I'm doing.
And now remind us of your background. Where'd you grow up and how did you get here from there?
Well, my background has had a lot of riches to it, I suppose. My dad was actually in the Army, so I spent my entire upbringing in about 9 different places, starting in Germany and then the Mid-Atlantic and the South. And then I found my way to San Diego right after college. I was actually pre-med and thought that I would come out here to find myself out a little better, but also see if there was anything else that maybe piqued my interest. And I got interested in my community. I had just come out as openly gay shortly before then. And so I wanted to get into our community and really see how to really, I think, broaden my connection to that side of me. Through that, I learned a little bit more about local politics, and one thing led to another. Met a lot of great people along the way, helped them win office. But a guy named Marty Block was on the community college board and was running for the state assembly back in 2008. And he asked if I would, when he won, if I would come up and be his chief of staff, which was a huge gift to be able to have that professional advancement. But worked hard with him on areas of higher education and health and a couple veterans issues, a couple other policy areas. But my heart is always here in San Diego. We were hoping to grow a family at the time. And when I was back down here through our district office, had the opportunity to talk with some community members about pursuing the now coming open seat on San Diego City Council. And we thought deeply about that because I think back to your first question, balancing that with family issues, making sure that you're not trading off any of your other personal priorities is important to me. And, we do this as a family, we do this as a team, and we decided to move forward with it. And I was just so honored that the voters saw the opportunity in me to be able to serve them in a great lineage of public servants, I might add. I tapped back into another role that I had as an environmental planner, working with local governments to be able to do land use and environmental review and other essential understandings of community development and of planning and progress, planning and program development. I got my master's in urban planning and public policy, so it's something that I was particularly attuned to want to make, turn into a professional accomplishment as well. And I thought running for city council would allow me to do just that.
And your core values, the values that really drive you and your public service throughout your life and your career, where do those come from?
Well, I think if you go back to my upbringing, I lived in a lot of different places. I lived in rural communities, urban, suburban, and I always made the most of any place that I was. I'd look for the positive in my surroundings and tried to make sure that we were having good experiences with those that we had to work with. But I also was mindful and got a chance to see a lot of the country, a lot of neighbors that had different sets of experiences. And I tried to remember that we were all people, and maybe people come from different points of view. But I think that there's a lot that we are trying to do together as a society, and mindful that in different parts of our own communities here and in different, really stemming from different parts of the nation as well, we've got some very disparate treatments that are out there. So I think that from that upbringing, those 18 years in 9 different places, I still carry that with me. I try to be very adaptable to any situation that I dive into, but I try to stay and look for the common threads and the positivity to be able to find solutions and work with others.
And what were your top priorities when you came into office?
Certainly working on homelessness and housing policy, public safety issues, environmental protection, improving city services. This District 3 is very active. I love our communities. I love our community groups and our leaders who have been working themselves, sometimes for decades or most of their adult life, to be invested in their communities. And they need leaders down at City Hall who understand the fights that they've been with and what they're trying to accomplish, and they need advocates. And so I think drawing from many of those relationships, trying to make sure that budget priorities and long-awaited investments in our communities were actually realized is what I got to work on. Coming into office in 2016 with the highest annual counts that we had both regionally and also through some monthly censuses that we do, we knew that homelessness is going to have to be one of the biggest issues, and of course it still is. But as I dug into the, I think, complex ways that we approach how to reform government around addressing homelessness better, I knew there needed to be systemic reform. And so working externally with the Regional Task Force on the Homeless and making that a more effective and a better organization, making sure that we are focused on housing first solutions and really driving towards the nationally proven best ways to reduce homelessness at the same time that we stop people from becoming homeless in the first place. I do believe that I'm leaving with a culture shift. We actually adopted a year ago a community action plan on homelessness and how to actually meet goals that has been vetted and has been really supported by a lot of the experts that understand and have actually shown how communities can reduce homelessness. So the framework is there. The early signs of some of our results are there. We have a ways to go, and I'm looking forward to being helpful with that as well in my next role in the State Assembly.
I've asked other council members in these conversations, whether their priorities evolved throughout their time on the council, but with housing and homelessness, I can't imagine your priorities have evolved a whole lot because there's still, as you say, so much work to do there.
Well, they've evolved. Look, we've got a lot more things that have come to light since 2016. I have been really honored to have really broadened my reach and become a lot more invested in the plight of communities of concern who have been speaking for a long time, decades, but finally have had a year where people are listening better and are responding more effectively to the social needs that we have in both public disinvestment, but also I think societal inequities that need real attention. And that's something that is, I think always been a part of me from core values, but it was really been something I've intentionally been trying to bring forward more in how I prioritize my time and conduct myself and make my decisions, because I think that those are also values that District 3 residents share very strongly. And then of course, COVID response and recovery and supporting our small businesses and our main streets. I mean, these are things that have evolved on the natural because these are issues that have evolved as well in my time on council.
And of your accomplishments on council, either yourself, things that you have brought forward and been able to bring home, or the council as a whole, what are you most proud of?
Well, I mentioned earlier around homelessness. I'll just kind of summarize that and say, that we have really deployed a multitude of strategies and resources when you think about everything from additional outreach and shelter and supportive services on the front end of a pipeline to a bigger focus on supportive housing and permanent housing opportunities that these individuals ultimately need. The collaboration, the relationship building with the county and with other resources that is required to have a positive impact. Those are things that have been set in motion and are, as I said, starting to see a better way to be able to reach, address individuals and ultimately solve and end their homelessness. On areas of economic development, I think working for a variety of areas that are supporting our small businesses, about 25% of the city's small businesses, and particularly those with the physical Main Street front, are located in Council District 3 in our urban core, in our mid-city neighborhoods. And I'm very proud of that. We have been trying to make sure that our tourism and marketing programs have been augmented so that they are focusing on neighborhood benefits as well. And then representing Balboa Park has been an honor, and making sure that it is receiving some renewed attention from possible funding streams coming down through those resources, and the marketing for the park as well has been important. The first thing I did in 2017 was to introduce an equal pay ordinance. We saw that city contractors were not necessarily held, or there was no mechanism to be able to make sure that they were ascribing to equal pay laws that are already on the books. And so to give that extra assurance and that extra tool for them to make sure that they were monitoring and opening themselves to audit for equal pay, regardless of gender or background or race, we wanted to make sure that that was something that was a tool in our toolkit to make sure that to actually close the wage gap for too many San Diegans that do business with the city. We have been working a lot on addressing our climate crisis here. We know we have, and I was very proud to come in here with an adopted climate action plan but that took an ongoing commitment to make sure that every decision that we made, from direct environmental investments to land use decisions to anything else that we were doing, was looked at through the lens of how this was actually congruous with our climate action plan. We wanted to make sure our zero waste efforts were enhanced. That's why I introduced our styrofoam ban and plastics recycling ordinance as well. That is going to be able to help us get to the zero waste goals a lot faster, and also reduce harmful pollutants that are otherwise making their way into our watersheds and out into the ocean. We jumped into action, of course, during the pandemic to make sure that we were doing everything that a local government could do with its resources. So I was proud to author the first rental relief program that we had here in the city of San Diego, and then the county fortunately followed suit. We fought for child care vouchers and extra dollars for essential workers who desperately needed that so they could do their jobs and help us. We made sure that we were working on a recall and retention ordinance. So those in the tourism sector, especially those hotel employees that were laid off in March, had the right of first refusal to come back to their jobs. Maybe they'd given themselves 20 years and deserved to come back, instead of being permanently cast aside for cheaper labor or for new hires as these jobs are starting to come back. It's the right thing to do. So the work is certainly not done on a lot of fronts, but I think that but much has been done, and I think a lot more groundwork that's been laid is going to give the next council and mayor a stronger foundation to take the city to that next level.
Yeah. You know, you've talked a little bit about your district, and District 3 is obviously a critical geographic area in our region. And District 3, the council office, has developed, a really strong legacy. And you touched on it very briefly earlier in this conversation. During the past quarter century, this district has produced Chris Kehoe, who was a trailblazer and a leader in the state legislature; Tony Atkins, who became the first person to lead both the Assembly and the Senate in nearly 150 years; and Todd Gloria, who's about to become the mayor. What is it like being the latest in that noteworthy chain of people?
It's special. It always has been. And, they told me in, 2015, as they're telling me today, you got some big shoes to fill. But I recognize that they have done a lot. They love these neighborhoods and these communities and this city. And as much as I have continued to engage with all of them, I'm reminded that, who holds the District 3 seat is still special to them, because we want the best. We want good public servants to be helping to do the important work that's here, because not all of it can be done sometimes by the end of our terms. I'm particularly mindful as an out and open gay man, the special connection that we have with the LGBT community and those that even came before Senator Kehoe in her time, who paved the way to actually run for office and her own success. That history is never lost on me, and making sure that we have a strong and ongoing relationship with many of our community-based organizations that keep that inside-outside connection between City Hall and the community very strong to advance our common goals is something that I really have shared with my predecessors. So I think that we also have now the longest running continuous stretch of LGBTQ representation in one seat in the entire country. I think right now, since Chris Kehoe was first elected in 1993, this has been something that has been going on for 27 years. And of course, with Councilmember-elect Whitburn now elected, it's something that will continue. And that's taken notice by those like in the Victory Fund or out of other national organizations, that we got something special here in San Diego. But it's not just being openly LGBT, it's being somebody who really comes to the job with hunger and an interest for public service, and for really applying themselves to make the most of what the job allows you to be able to do.
Yeah. Okay. So now this is the point in the conversation where I ask you for a story from your time on the council. Like, is there anything funny or strange or remarkable, that happened during your tenure, that you might tell people at a dinner party?
Yes. You this has been a rich and a very deep experience. And so I will probably reserve a lot of those for either dinner parties or even keeping those to myself because out of respect for colleagues.
Fair enough.
But I think one thing that's been funny, and almost curious is there's a confusion with me and Councilmember Kate. People will look at me and they'll call me Councilmember Kate and sometimes him, Councilmember Ward. But we could be at a council meeting and staff will be responding to one of our questions and just call us by the wrong name. Even the mayor has referred to me. He'll look right at me, and Chris Kate worked for him a decade ago. So it was funny in 2017. It's gotten a little old in 2020 and it still happens. But he's a good guy. He's been a great colleague. I don't take any offense, but it's been a weird story.
And who will you miss most at City Hall as you depart? Either because they're just fun to be around or they were great to work with. Any particular people that you'll really miss?
I will very much miss our department directors and a lot of city staff that I've had the chance to dig in deep and work with some issues on. I remember keenly when I came into the office in 2017 and we were taking my first budget briefings and some of the first project briefings for things that, had really transcended into my term. I think I conveyed to them both that I did my homework and really came into the conversation not needing a whole lot of background. I wanted to dig into the real substance and the real pathways forward and how I could be helpful to them. And I think they really appreciated that I was somebody that was prepared and really appreciated their work that they were doing and was ready to support them to be able to do things differently. So I think that our city staff are wonderful. They are looking for elected officials who also understand the value that they pour into their jobs behind the scenes. And when they have that harmony, I think between elected officials and administrators, leadership, that access and the ability to do things together can only be improved.
And as you end here at the end of your term, your tenure on the council, as you think about San Diego, City Hall or San Diego in general, going forward, what needs to change? Is there anything that you would change if you could?
Well, it's changing, but I think something that is in front of us that we all need to just hopefully fully appreciate and maybe even get behind his vision, because he talked about a lot in his campaign, is what Mayor-elect Gloria is talking about being a bigger city. We have been a sleepy big town for a long time. And to a degree, we're isolated, both in the state and the country, almost geographically and through natural, I think, location. But that doesn't, we are the 8th largest city and we've got some challenges here. And that doesn't mean that we can't find a lot of solutions that have worked well in other cities. It doesn't mean that you have to trade off life as you know it or a community character that you've always appreciated or something that you really like about the way things are. You can add to that without, I think, losing or changing drastically something a perspective that you already have and that you already maybe enjoy around you. So I would encourage the city to look broadly and think boldly. I think that we should look towards national best practices for a lot of the same solutions that we're struggling with here, because often if something has been done right somewhere else, we can do many of the same ideas right here in San Diego. But sometimes we don't think beyond our own relationships or our own experiences here about how to solve problems. And I would really encourage San Diego going forward to think about what other cities have been able to do to break through inertia and actually try to work on some of the very same big challenges.
And that sort of dovetails into my next question, which was going to be any advice for incoming council members?
I think, be bold. We've got, what you ran on, and some of the work that you want to do, and it's okay to not know everything, but come in here with the skill set that you bring. I think that there's a lot of smart and very eager and good-natured talent that is ready to get to work and really take the city and help our communities to the next level. And so my advice would be just to don't let reasons to say no get in your way of doing what it is that you wanted to do. And I think that if you are determined to actually have impact and you are staying engaged with all of your community members, whether you think they agree with you or not, you'll find that a lot of people appreciate all the effort that you have been able to put into the job and really appreciated the public service that you've been able to give to the city.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you say that, because it's always been a little bit of a conundrum for an elected official who's elected to represent constituents and their feelings about the important issues, but you're also elected to lead and be bold.
And those don't have to be incompatible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As long as I think lines of communication stay open, and one of the biggest responsibilities I've always held for me as a council member is to make sure that two-way communications were very strong, that my staff modeled that as well with the direct lines of communication that they were able to do when I could not be there, and I think because that activity was always a core value of this office and how I led this office, that I think people felt like they actually had somebody who was listening. I mean, there was always good intentions about trying to get the right things done, get solutions out there for neighborhoods and for our citywide challenges at the same time.
All right, so I see some empty bookshelves behind you, and as you close this chapter of your career and you get set to embark on your next one, any final thoughts?
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually in my city hall office. This is my last day, and so it's bittersweet. But I am looking forward to the continued opportunity to be of service to our region and to many of the same neighborhoods as I've already been able to serve in an even bigger capacity. So I always remember every day that I get up that it is a privilege to serve in these roles and to just head out into the world and make the most of every day. And I will continue to do that. And I want to thank everybody for all the voters and constituents for the opportunity to be able to do that.
And I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule as you wind things down there in the office to sit down and talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. Well, I'll see you again when I can.
Okay. Well, I've been speaking with Councilmember Chris Ward. I might be back soon with one more segment of this conversation series. Until then, please stay safe, stay sane, and goodbye for now.